afternoon, everybody. Aaliyah Varillas, nyrealestatediva.com. This week, we're going to be exploring the topic of property taxation. More specifically, I'm going to show you how to calculate taxes, not only based on your current assessment or current market value, but based on any market value. So if for whatever reason you suspect that taxes on a given property will be going up, I'm going to show you how you can do the calculations and figure out what those taxes might jump to. Okay, so this is my screen. On the right-hand side is the spreadsheet that I use to calculate taxes. Left-hand side are some websites that I'm going to walk you through that'll give you the information that you need to populate your sheet and do your calculations, okay? First step, figure out what your assessment is. There's a number of ways to figure out what your assessment is. First thing, I'll tell you what the assessment is. It's what the town thinks that you're worth. Oftentimes, if you're not in a 100% equalization town, you're going to have a residential assessment ratio. That's the multiplier that is used in conjunction with your assessment to figure out how the assessment translates into your full market value. Okay, for the sake of this example, I'm working with a house that is in the municipality of the town of Cortland. Okay, so if you go into Google and you look up the assessment roll, the assessment roll comes out on an annual basis and will tell you what your new assessment is per year. Okay, so assessment roll, we're looking in Cortland. You can type in any municipality. Town assessor's office will usually come up for whatever municipality you're looking up, because almost every municipality has their assessment roll on their town assessor page. Okay, so you scroll down and you have final roll, tentative roll. If the final roll is not here and all you have is the most recent tentative roll or an older final roll, go with the most recent. Reason being, it's going to have your new assessment and it'll likely stick. The only chance that it wouldn't is if the homeowner of the property that you're looking up is grieving their taxes, and there's a chance that the assessment can be reduced. But 9 out of 10 times it's going to stay the same for final. And to look up the property in a sea of pages, 3,600 to be precise, click Control F, type in the number of the street, followed by the name of the street, isolate the property you're looking for. If there's more than one, just scroll down. I like to take my snippet tool and just do a nice screenshot of the property so I never need this page again. And for the sake of our example, I've already done that. I pulled open the property. I've redacted just some information for privacy's sake. And here's our assessment. It's located right here under the land assessment. It'll say up here, assessment land and assessment total. It's right here. Also on the right-hand side, you'll see it listed like 1,000 times. And you'll also see the individual tax line items that you pay. These are all your special districts right here. And of course, accompanied by county, town, and school. Your tax rate is multiplied by this divided by 1,000. It's per $1,000 of assessed value. So in most cases, in this case, in all cases, it's multiplied against the full value, right? $1,000 worth of it. Sometimes you will see a slight reduction on the school taxable. That's because this property is getting the STAR deduction. That's a school tax relief program. Don't calculate by this. Assume that it's also 9310. Reason being is you don't know if STAR is going to be here next year. You're trying to figure out what the gross taxes are, right? You don't know if you'll qualify, all that jazz. So assume this says 9310. Sometimes special districts are not multiplied, against the against the assessment. Sometimes it'll just say 1.00 or 1.25 or whatever it is. The tax rate literally gets multiplied by 1.25. So let's say that, I don't know, Lafayette Drain let's say this didn't say 9310. Let's say it did say 1.0. When I pulled up the tax rate and I figured out that the tax rate from another website that I'm going to show you, what is that? DD, okay, 43 cents. If it did indeed say 1, then I know I'm actually only paying 43 cents total because it only gets multiplied by 1. If it says 1.25, you multiply 43 cents by, or 40.43 by 1.25, and you get the exact dollar amount that you're paying for that tax. All right, I hope this is clear. It's hard to explain. Now, the next website I want to draw your attention to is retiredassessor.com. That is Richard O'Donnell's website. Richard O'Donnell, sorry, not O'Donnell. Richard O'Donnell is a tax grievance specialist. He's been grieving taxes for many of my clients for the past several years, and he's been very successful. He's aggregated a lot of data onto his website that you would otherwise have to go to a lot of different websites for. This is one-stop shopping. He's made everybody's life really easy. So thank you, Rich. The first thing I want to do is go to the residential assessment ratios and figure out what the residential assessment ratio is for my town. So for Westchester County, I'm in town of Cortland, it's 1.65. This is what it is for all the other municipalities. You'll notice a lot are 100% equalization. What that means is that your tax rate, your assessment looks more like this, your full market value, than it does like this. So I notate my RAR, and the next thing I want to do is figure out my fair market value from that. Alternatively, I can look down here. It's always on the assessment roll what your full market value is. However, it's going to be helpful to know what your residential assessment ratio is and get comfortable with the calculations, because if you want to look up any different market value, let's say you're buying this home for $600,000 or $650,000, and you want to figure out what the assessment is, you're going to need to know what the residential assessment ratio is so that you can multiply it and get the assessment. Okay. So I do the multiplication. It's expressed like this. If you're in Excel, you divide the cell that has the assessment by the cell that has the RAR times 100, and that will give you the full market value per the town. Now, to do it backwards, let's say you're buying the home for $660,000. The town has it valued at $564,000. You want to see how this translates into your assessment. You simply multiply it by 1.65 times 100. So it's the direct opposite of the division. And that'll give you an assessment of $10,890. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is take the assessment divided by 1,000. Because remember what I said, it's tax rate per $1,000 of assessed value. So that gives us 9.31 in this example. So great, we have our multiplier. We know that all of the tax rates get multiplied against the same value. So now we just have to find out what the tax rates are. On the left-hand menu, I go into tax rates, and voila, he gives me all the tax rates. So first thing, I go into county, locate the town of Cortland, copy and paste the tax rate per 1,000 into my spreadsheet, and back browser and do the same for county, town of Cortland, back browser, copy paste it into my sheet, and so on and so forth. When you get to the special districts, it's the same thing, except you're looking for a multitude of special districts by their code, and you just copy and paste tax rate per 1,000 into your spreadsheet for the corresponding code. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now what you can do is you can add up the total and multiply it by 9.31, and that should give you what your taxes are, which in this case is $1,550. You can do each line item if you want to isolate each individual tax and figure out what you're paying for each tax. But to get the total taxes, I find it much easier just to add all of them up and multiply it by your assessment per thousand. Now, for a new valuation, if you're buying a home for $660,000, you want to figure out what your taxes will go up to. You simply multiply the total tax rate by the assessment per thousand for the new valuation. And that'll show you that your taxes could potentially go up by about $2,500. So it could go from $1,500 to $17,604. So good to know. In a worst case scenario, that's what it'll go up to. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Disclaimer, this is not going to give you to the dollar and cent exactly what your taxes will be. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. It depends on the transparency of the municipality that you're dealing with. There may be some additional taxes that don't show up in here that you have to know about. But the largest piece of the pie is your county, town, and school, and village, if applicable. Those are the biggest taxes that you're going to be paying, and they make up the largest part of your bill. Okay, the rest is special districts. They're lesser amounts, so this should take you within $500 to $1,000 or so within what your actual taxes will be, if it's not completely accurate. Thanks for tuning in today, and I hope you gained some valuable knowledge. Be sure to check out my blog at nyrealestatediva.com, where I offer up other tips, suggestions, and advice to navigate this crazy world of real estate here in our area. Be sure to subscribe to get notified of new weekly posts.